if Irad Ortiz believed that Commandment was definitely the horse for the Kentucky Derby, there's no chance he would be leaving him. It is a negative for Commandment. I'm not saying toss him to the side. Jockeys have been wrong in the past, right? But I'm telling you, it is a negative for Commandment for sure, and a very much a positive for Renegade.
This is VSiN at the Track. Now here's your hosts, Mike Somich and Aaron Halterman.
Welcome in here, VSiN at the Track. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman. Another Thursday. A couple more Derby preps that we've got to talk to. We've got to talk about what happened last week. Bob Baffert on the move. What is he up to these days? Aaron Halterman, got to touch on that as well. I got to talk about our best bets. We've got a Derby draft. I love me a draft. So we're going to draft our top 10 horses right now for the Kentucky Derby, which I will inevitably win because I always defeat you in drafts. It's just something that has happened time and time again. But before we get into any of that, how are you doing, Mr. Halterman?
A lot of lies on this show, isn't there? Just a lot of lies like always. No, I'm doing great. Happy to be back with you for another week here. We kind of talked about last week, man. It's going to be nice these next 3 weekends, and now we're here. We're at the first weekend. The big 100-point prep races are here. That's always my favorite 3 weeks of the Triple Crown run-up, at least. So excited to be here. Happy March Madness Day as well. That's exciting. So we got that on in the background as well. It's going to be a good show.
It is going to be a good show. What are we doing? We got the Derby draft. We're going to talk Incredibolt, who takes down the Virginia Derby. We're going to talk a little about Baffert. Irad Ortiz makes an interesting decision. I actually really am excited to talk about that with you. We're going to have questions and comments from the audience over on YouTube, as well as race previews from both Fair Grounds and Turfway Park, including the Louisiana Derby, the Fair Grounds Oaks, and the Jeff Ruby Stakes, spelled like the steak you eat. We'll also have best bets coming up a little bit later in the show, but we're going to kick it off with Incredibolt, Aaron. Now, it was interesting. We talked about this, that mile and an eighth going one turn. I think that benefited Incredibolt. We saw him able to come from off the pace, kind of make that inside move, gobble up ground late. We talked about him quite a bit coming out of his last race. I didn't love the track down there at Gulfstream. It definitely was a throwout when you saw this version of him. As he gets home, pays about $14 on the Win Mutual.
I, for one, was kind of happy to see him bounce back, because you always want a horse to kind of reach that potential, or I don't know if that was his full potential, but potential. And he was so bad in the Holy Bull, and we talked about it. It's like that's he may not win the Virginia Derby, but that's certainly that Holy Bull was not him. He ran really well. I think we knew going in it was a weak race, and somebody could jump up and do what he did, and he was the one to do it. So give him credit for that. I don't know what it means moving forward for the Kentucky Derby. I've heard they're going to train up to the race. I think that's, it's a tough spot, right, to train up to the race running that far out. But look, he bounced back. A lot of people really like him after this race. I'm still skeptical as far as the Kentucky Derby, but I'm not skeptical of him as a horse. I think he does have other races that he's going to win. I'm just not sure it's the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we get from Incredibolt moving forward. I mean, this is a horse that we talked a lot about in the 2-year-old season, won the Street Sense, which has not been great, but did win that race, then comes back, and that Holy Bull was so bad, too bad to believe, as we discussed last week. Then now you're like, okay, what do you do with this horse moving forward? Is this someone that is going to be able to run up if they have a fast pace and hit that superfecta? Is this a horse that's a legitimate contender to get into the winner's circle? And the fact that we're training up to the race kind of makes you worry a little bit. I wish we saw one more, but at the same time, to your point, the timing of the Virginia Derby and really all of the rest of the preps don't really leave the space to have another race to be able to move forward with. So to me, Incredibolt, one of those horses that really interested to see what the price is going to be, because there's some people who are going to glamour onto this effort and they're going to say, hey, that was really good. This is a horse that can close. We've seen closers do well in the Derby the last couple of years. Why not Incredibolt?
I've actually heard a few people in our comment section over at Racing Dudes, and I bet in the comment section here, I'm gonna bet there's gonna be some people high on Incredibolt, and so I do agree with you. There are gonna people that are gonna be high. I think he's got that ability to kind of be the wise guy horse a little bit because I think people really like to root for the Motts, whether it be Bill or Riley Mott. I mean, they're such nice people. I think people want them to have good horses, and I think this horse is probably going to be one that's going to show up early to Kentucky and work out over the local track a lot, and I think he'll get some buzz. So I probably going to be lower than what he should be, honestly, and at least in my eyes. That's the eyes of the beholder, though. But, yeah, look, I am. I'm one of those people. I'm like, wow, I'm glad he bounced back. You know what I mean? But again, I guess for the Derby, I don't like it. You could run in the Lexington, which is kind of a smaller prep after all the big ones, but then you're getting closer to the Derby, and not, I don't know. Just from the timing standpoint, may not make sense.
Yeah, get ready. Get ready for the hype. 2 for 2 at Churchill. Mott won the Street Sense last year with Sovereignty. Mott's son won the Street Sense this time with Incredibolt heading into it. There's going to be a lot of similarities that you're going to be able to point to from those two. Career best 88 buyer. So that also is a nice move there. Obviously just didn't like the Gulfstream track. Period. End of story. Move along. And I think that's all reasons why people are going to be higher with Incredibolt than maybe they should be. I'm kind of, jury's out for me. I haven't decided what to make of this horse yet, and that's the beauty of the Kentucky Derby. I've got, another 6 weeks to decide whether or not I want to use this horse or not. I do think Incredibolt at least a little bit interesting there. Grittiness runs second. Confessional third. Butane fourth. Any interest in any of them coming out of this race and from a Derby perspective or Derby prep perspective?
No, none. Less than none.
Yeah, I agree. Like Grittiness, good rebound, cool. Butane, another Baffert that just was kind of disappointing. And on the note of disappointing, we got to talk about High Camp, a horse we both picked, who finished last in this race. Never just involved. Just a terrible effort. Didn't like the track. Just ran up the track. Pretty frustrating from High Camp there, who just, again, ran terribly.
It felt like how incredible it ran in the Holy Bowl. That's how High Camp ran in the Virginia Derby. Like, you break from the gate, and it's like, why is he that far back? Like, what is going on? And it's just like he's fighting the track. He makes a move for maybe 5 seconds, and he passes a horse or two, and then he just quits immediately. So, yeah, he was horrible. Bad pick by us there. And that'll happen sometimes where you look, and it's just like, wow, that horse didn't show up. And Mike, a horse he beat at Gulfstream came back and won a maiden on the same card there at Colonial by like 20 lengths. And you're like, okay, look, I know that field wasn't great, but it's like, okay, this is a decent horse here. I feel good about High Camp. And then he didn't run a step. That's just the frustrations of horse racing, kind of like you pointed out.
Yeah, sometimes it's more fun. Well, I shouldn't say fun. Sometimes it feels better to have this horse lose than one that you pick and gets a bad trip and loses, because you're like, well, that was just never happening. Today was never going to be the day for High Camp. So we'll see if we can do better this week with some of those Kentucky Derby preps. However, I should give you your flowers. You're 4 for 4 on your last 4 best bets. We'll get to those at the end of the card. Now, before we get into those race previews, we got to talk a little about Bob Baffert. And I don't really care about the Bob Baffert part of this. I think the decision he made is interesting, though, and that's why I think it's important for us to talk about it. He's going to split his string between California and Kentucky, specifically Churchill Downs and Keeneland, as those meets get rolling here. What do you make of this, Aaron?
Well, I mean, it's really bad for California racing. I mean, when you're watching California racing right now with Baffert's full string there, it's still an absolute struggle to get race cards every day, and this is the time of year for Santa Anita where they usually, I mean, they've always kind of been struggling, but this time of year it seems a little easier. And with Baffert moving out basically after the Santa Anita Derby is kind of how I took it. Those summer cards are, what are they going to look like before they go to Los Al and Del Mar? I don't really know. I don't want to be gloom and doom about the situation, but I do want to, you have to be realistic. I don't know if it's the beginning of the end, but it feels like another just, terrible thing for California racing. And look, I mean, the flip side of it is, well, Bob Baffert, maybe they're not entering because they don't think they can beat him. I don't think that's really it. I think he's filling up races for him, and if half those horses are gone, I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, he specifically said he's targeting stakes races in Kentucky. That means the good horses are going to go to Kentucky. Like, what are you going to be left with in California? What the graded stakes program in California has gotten worse and worse and worse. And now we're taking away some of those graded stakes horses so that they can be in Kentucky. Like, it is bad. This is bad. Because Baffert's one of those guys that you could always count on in California to have 2 in a lot of these races and to be able to have this, like, oh, where'd that horse come from? Just popping up in a grade 1. Without those horses, if those are the only horses, just the graded stakes level in California, we could go from talking about 5 and 6 horse fields to 3 and 4 horse fields.
Well, look at the big cap. It was one with a 90 buyer because, Baffert had getaway car, which that's, he's not great. And so he didn't have anybody there. And so it was terrible. Nobody really ships in anymore. And that's bad. You're right. One other thing I was thinking of, and I have no idea why Baffert's making this move. I would think money is a big part of it. The purses are a little better. But the other thing is, and I was talking to my buddy, Kelly Von Hemel, who is a trainer at Iowa and at Oaklawn Park. And, one time he had a really good Iowa bred that went up and ran in the Travers, and he was really good. And then he went to the Travers and he ran 6th. He didn't run horrible, but he didn't win. He went back to Iowa and he crushed those Iowa breds like never before. And so I asked him about that. And he goes, sometimes when you're running against horses that aren't very good, you kind of, if you got a really good horse, they kind of know it and they don't really develop. They don't really learn anything. They just know they can beat those horses. He said, when we went up there, he learned how to be a racehorse. When he came back, he was dominant. And I have to wonder if Baffert, who has been struggling shipping horses out and struggling winning races outside of California, maybe he's thinking that a little bit. Maybe he's thinking, man, I've got to get my good horses. Like you just said, he's taking the good ones. I got to get them facing better horses more often to get them more ready to run in those bigger races. I'm not saying that's what he said or that's what he's thinking. That's just my kind of mindset of like, maybe there's a little bit of that as well, because there's no doubt this is a guy that used to ship and win everywhere. It's not happening anymore for him.
Yeah, that's the other interesting part for this. Look, the Baffert plan is broken. Something has changed. You all can litigate whatever that something is.
Right.
But something is broken because you used to go to Arkansas and win. He used to go to Saratoga and win. That's not happening anymore, right? And so it's what do you need to do to be able to change those results? And I think this is part of it. And to your point, maybe it's the competition in California is limiting his horses. Maybe it's because he's just struggling shipping. And so he wants to have a closer home base to these East Coast tracks. So you're not shipping across the country, right? There's a bunch of different reasons that you could be making these moves. But irregardless of what those are, making those moves is going to negatively affect the California racing program. All right, keep moving forward here as your boy Irad Ortiz Jr. makes a decision. And it's funny because we kind of brought this up a little bit after the Fountain of Youth and the riding out of Commandment and kind of testing the waters there. Irad officially going to go ride Renegade in the Arkansas Derby and pass on riding Commandment in the Florida Derby. Not shocked, but did find this very interesting, Aaron.
I'm 100% with you. I was not shocked by it, but I think it's fascinating. And look, a lot of people out there going, well, look, he's loyal to Todd Pletcher. Of course he's going to go out there. That's not really the case when it comes to Kentucky Derby mounts, right? If you think you have a locked down Kentucky Derby mount, this is no doubt my best horse. Those guys, you don't have to be loyal. That's the one time where they'll go, hey, I get it, because everybody's wanting to win that race, right? So if Irad Ortiz believed that Commandment was definitely the horse for the Kentucky Derby, there's no chance he would be leaving him. Now, it is a negative for Commandment. I'm not saying toss him to the side. Jockeys have been wrong in the past, right? But I'm telling you, it is a negative for Commandment for sure. And a very much a positive for Renegade. Renegade going to the Arkansas Derby. Again, I really thought Irad would say on Commandment, it's not happening. It tells me he believes for the Kentucky Derby specifically, Renegade is his horse. So I think it's big news for Renegade, and it is definitely a negative for Commandment.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point there. This doesn't downgrade Commandment in the Florida Derby. This doesn't upgrade Renegade in the Arkansas Derby, outside of the fact that Irad will be riding him and won't be riding in one place. So your value on Irad, obviously upgrades or downgrades, but it's not a comment on that race. To me, it is a comment on the Kentucky Derby, and specifically the 1.25 miles. And we talked about this after Commandment finished that race. The fact that Irad rode him out to the second finish line, to the original finish line at Gulfstream Park, essentially an extra 16th of a mile to say, let's see what happens at 1 mile and an eighth. Well, what happened, I guess, is not good enough for him to want to stay on the horse. And that to me, tells me the distance concerns that we had are absolutely valid for Commandment. I agree with you. You don't throw him out for the Derby, but he definitely falls in my book because, like, I had Renegade and Commandment right around the same level. We talked about the 1 seeds last week. They each got one. But this definitely makes me want to have Renegade above Commandment now when you're talking about it, because the distance issues that we believed were there for Commandment feel very much more justified after Irad decides, hey, I'm going to get off this horse and ride a very good horse. So again, they could both be in the top 5. It's totally still viable. However, it feels like one has to be above the other with this decision, especially considering we had distance concerns heading into this.
Yeah, that's very, very, very well said. As for you as well, I totally agree with what you're laying down there for sure. And look, this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of every trainer I've ever talked to on the subject. That separator from a mile and a 16th to a mile and an eighth is big. I don't know how many trainers have told me a horse can get a mile and a 16th. That mile and an eighth is where you start to separate the ones that really want to go longer and the ones that don't. And so, I think that is foreshadowing. Like you said, mile and a 16th there at Gulfstream Park for the Fountain of Youth, and Commandment was able to do it. But to me, it's foreshadowing what we've kind of thought. Man, when they go a mile and an eighth, I think Chief Wallaby's going to beat him. And that may, that's not, I don't think maybe that is what Irad kind of thinks. And you pointed it out right after the race. We talked about that next week. What'd you think about him riding that horse out to that second wire? I was like, well, very interesting, So, and like you said, he had to have maybe just not liked what he felt underneath him past that mile and 16th wire. So again, we could totally be shut up next week in the Florida Derby. If Commandment wins again, you go, well, I don't know, maybe Irad made a mistake, but as you sit here right now, it certainly feels like, it feels like Renegade's the horse he thinks can go a mile and a quarter.
Yeah. And I think again, the key here is Commandment could still be very good. Yeah. Right. Don't just completely disregard Commandment because of this. But at the same time, I am going to upgrade Renegade a little bit here. One more thing we want to talk about here before we jump into the race previews this week. Englishman returns to the track today, Thursday, when we are recording this. Just check out, see how this horse did. This was one of the best 3-year-old or 2-year-old performances we saw last year. Horses had trouble getting back to the track. Probably too late for the Derby, Aaron, especially since we were debuting at 6 miles today, but definitely a horse you may want to know for the Pat Day Mile.
Yeah, Pat Day Mile sounds like the target. Cherie DeVoe was quoted in saying the Pat Day Mile was the target, so that's why I'm saying that. I'm not speculating. That's what she said. Look, I don't think there's any kind of performance by him that's going to change that track. But I will say this. I think he's going to run very well today and win. I can't predict the Pat. You just never know who's going to actually go in the Pat Day Mile. Every year there's 300 horses pointing for it, and then they draw 8, right? And you're just like, I don't know. But let's say he can win there. Then I think whether it be Preakness or Belmont, I think that becomes into play. I don't think he's a Derby horse, but I still think he could make an impact on the Triple Crown. I handicapped the race today. I'm sure you did as well. He looks like he's going to win by 12, by the way I see. So I think you are going to see a great return today, and I think people are going to get very excited after this return. But again, Cherie DeVoe quoted in the Fairgrounds race notes saying Pat Day Mile is 100% the target.
Yeah, should air. So we'll see if he's able to do so. But at least a horse that you should reference that probably will be running on Kentucky Derby weekend. Their Englishman running at 6 furlongs today over at Fairgrounds if you want to check out the race. If you haven't checked out VSiN Pro, you should be checking that out as well. VSiN Pro is your edge in both the horse racing markets as well as across all sports. Try it now for just $9.99 for your first month and get our MLB betting guide included. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe. That's vsin.com/subscribe and see all of these subscription options today. All right, Mr. Halterman. Let's get into it here. Let's head to Fairgrounds. It's time for a 100-point prep. It's time for the Louisiana Derby, going a mile and 3/16. Little unique distance there over the dirt course. And I'm going to say this is a pretty highly contested race right now. Your favorite, the number 3 Chip Honcho, a horse we've both talked about quite a bit in the past and not loving. Second choice, the number 5 Golden Tempo. I will start out. Where are you going on top here? Because I do think this was actually a very difficult race to handicap.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think this is a puzzle. I think you kind of got to pick your poison. They all have flaws. We say that a lot about these races. They all have some flaws. Oh, man, I was with you. I debated for a while. I did end up going number 9 Emerging Market on top in this spot. I do get the worry that Power Shift, the horse that he beat at Tampa in that maiden special weight, did not come back to run all that well. I kind of think Power Shift just got a poor trip in that race, though. I also worry that it's one race, and now we're going right to the Derby preps. I just feel like this is a really, really good spot to try that specific thing for the number 9 emerging market. I don't really like anybody in here that much, right? And I just think, look, if he's the horse that I think he is, if he's going to take a step in the right direction, which I think he will, I love that the maiden, he came from off the pace to do it. Power Shift, he was on the lead. He won like a lot of first-time starters win, right? And then the next race, Power Shift just did not get that trip at all, and he ran like a lot of horses that get a perfect trip and then don't run. He didn't run a step in the Tampa Bay Derby. Emerging Market came from out of it. He kind of, made a huge move. He took some dirt in his face, and then he still got the job done. So I like number 9 Emerging Market in this spot. I am worried about all the problems that you would think we would be worried about with a horse with just one race, but I think this is a really good spot for him.
It's interesting. Like, just kind of thrown him to the wolves. And the wolves aren't all that vicious in this case. I don't think this is a great prep race, especially for a 100-point prep race. But still going right to the wolves here. And we talked about kind of emerging market, and we talked about Power Shift. And Power Shift, the plan was always the Tampa Bay Derby. I don't think this was ever the plan for emerging market. I think this is like, hey, the horse ran really well. Where are we going to put him? Because this is kind of an afterthought inside the Chad Brown barn. That's tough for me to glam to that horse and go to say, okay, I got to play that horse here at 6-1 when I've got other horses I think are interesting. I had Chip Honcho on top for like 45 minutes in this race.
Yeah, me too.
And I hate saying it because I don't like Chip Honcho. The pace sets up really well for Chip Honcho here. We saw Chip Honcho get brave last time out. And when you look at a horse like Golden Tempo being the second choice and losing by 5 to Chip Honcho last time and then saying to yourself, well, what's going to change? Not much. Not much, Aaron. Yeah. I couldn't do it, though. I don't like Chip Honcho. I couldn't either,
Mike. Before you go on, I did the exact same thing you did. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to give Chip Honcho credit because we've literally just kind of pushed this horse to the wayside multiple times. And, like, I this close to putting Chip Honcho on top. Instead, I'm going to go to the number 8, Easterly. 6-1 as well, so a little bit of a price shot here. First race out, ran in a mile at Gulfstream Park, lost to a horse called Class President. Ever heard of him? Came back to win a Derby prep. Came back second time out, second time blinkers, and ran significantly better. But to me, the reason I am picking this horse, and the key for me, speed. I think this horse sits close, and I want somebody who's sitting close. I don't want someone who has to come from the clouds to be able to beat Chip Honcho. I think Emerging Market is going to be further back. I think you may get a little bit of a pace setup depending on what Pavlovian does on the inside with Chip Honcho. But I don't want the deep closer. I want a horse that is relatively in touch with this field, and I think that's going to be Easterly. Saez comes in. This is a horse that's, Uncle Moat is now on the bottom, should love the distance. That shouldn't be an issue. Brad Cox done very well in this race before. So I'm going to go with a price as well. A little bit of a shot here at 6-1 with Easterly. It's a lukewarm opinion, but I wanted to find someone who was closer to the pace that I thought had the upside to be able to get home first.
Yeah, I want to circle back on the Chip Honcho thing, and I had to interrupt you because it's like, man, I did literally the exact same thing. It's just like a last minute. I was like, I just can't do it. But Look, I agree with you with the Chip Honcho thing. He's going to sit the trip. Doesn't he just feel like a horse that's at the end of the day, it's like, man, he ran well, but he just got caught by somebody. And that's was kind of why I went Emerging Market. I don't blame you for going Easterly. I definitely think this is a horse that I don't care that he lost to Class President on debut because I like him, and I thought horse stepped forward big time in the last race. So Easterly, one that I definitely think has a big chance. I got no argument with you on that one. Let's talk Golden Tempo for a second. This is a horse that I think if they could ever get him to run a little bit early, I think he's got the ability to be very good. Last time out, they tried to ride Golden Tempo hard out of the gate. He had no interest. This time they're putting blinkers on him. To me, it feels like just let's try something. We've got to get him closer. Cherie DeVoe knows we can't win these big ones unless there's just a pace meltdown, which I'm with you. I don't think there's going to be a meltdown in this race. So is there a world where he sits closer and runs better in this spot? I guess is my question to you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just simply look at the workouts. And then to me, this is the one thing where if you're going to say, hey, Golden Temple can win this race, the workouts prior to the Risen Star, 49-102. The workouts post Risen Star, 47-148. You saw the blinkers make a difference in the work of this horse. That's why they're adding him for the race. Yep. Is it going to be enough? I mean, time will tell. Do I think that there is the ability for Golden Tempo? 100%. I think this horse has a ton of talent. I'm not. The price, like the price for Golden Tempo makes no sense to me. Golden Tempo at 7-2, like Chip Honcho at this point, I don't necessarily agree with this, but has been the better horse on the track. Yeah. And so at some point you have to look at this racetrack and say, look, Chip Honcho's last race against Paladin, who's your Derby favorite, and is going to get a similar setup to what he got that day. So is Golden Tempo going to be able to make up 5 lengths? Now the added distance probably favors Golden Tempo a little bit, but where's the pace pressure coming from for Chip Honcho? Like Pavlovian was not pace pressure before last time out at Sunland Derby, and that I think was a lot to do with Sunland Derby more than the horse's actual interest in being up front. So it's just hard for me to think that if you're looking at Chip Honcho at 3-1 and Golden Tempo at 7-2, that Golden Tempo is going to suddenly flip the script on Chip Honcho by 5 lengths, and I'm only getting half a tick up on the odds board in a difference.
Yeah, I agree again. I hate that I'm agreeing with everything you're saying this week, but hopefully it changes. But no, I agree with you. I just have this vision of what if Golden Tempo is in the middle of the pack in a race. I think he wins, but can we really bet on that to happen at 7-2? That's the flip side of it. And
I mean, no, right? Yeah. Because if he's not in the middle of the pack, he probably runs third, right? And that's so. I mean, we'll learn more obviously on Saturday about this horse. I think that will kind of be a big key for whether or not this is a horse who you're going to use when it comes to Kentucky Derby time. But I'm not willing to bet it at 7-2 when I know the 3-1 shot. Let's be honest too. Like, what are the off odds on Emerging Market? What are the off odds on Chip Honcho?
I mean, Emerging Market's going to be second choice, if not the favorite.
I think Emerging Market's your favorite. I think you're probably looking at 2-1, 9-5. I think Chip Honcho is probably 2-1, 5-2, somewhere in that range. Okay. Yeah. So that, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with those two. Anybody else in here, like a Pavlovian, nice number at Sunland, no real interest for me. Autobahn, like lost to Canaletto, lost to High Camp, 2 very good horses at Gulfstream, comes back, breaks the maiden. Any interest in the one or the two here shipping in for this race?
No, I have less than 0 interest in the 2, so go ahead and put him in the winner's circle. But he looks very slow to me. I wasn't really impressed with the last race visually either, so I don't have a lot of interest in him. I do want to talk about Pavlovian for a second because you touched on it a bit. I think from the rail and how he won the Sunland Derby, you almost have to press the pace, don't you, if you're him? And that could be the one factor that speeds it up enough to put Golden Tempo with a chance. I keep making cases for Golden Tempo, even though I didn't pick him to win, but that could be the one factor because I do think that Chip Honcho's going. I don't think there's any doubt there. Easterly, I feel like it's going to be close. What if Pavlovian goes from the rail? But you said it. You picked him in the Sunland Derby because he was a closer, and then he was on the lead in this race, or at least pressing the lead. So I think he's a very much I'm with you. Like, I don't have a lot of interest to pick him to win here, but I think he's a pivotal part of this race because if he presses and speeds it up, then it does put other horses into play.
Well, the one thing I would say that I jumps out to me now after that Sunland Derby, every time he has run a mile or less, he had blinkers on. Okay. And he was 1 length back of a 24-second opening quarter, 4 lengths back of a 21-second opening quarter, 2 lengths back of a 22-1. So, like, has the speed in those sprint races. You take the blinkers off, he closed in those 2 state-bred 100,000 and the state-bred 175,000 overnight stakes. You put the blinkers back on, and he's forward at Sunland. He's leaving blinkers on for this race. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the reason he was forward at Sunland. And we saw that in the past. Like, he's just faster with blinkers. Other horses are fast. That's why Golden Tempo is throwing blinkers on to try and be faster early. I do think you may see Pavlovian press. And that was one of the final deciding factors for me, breaking from the 1 that Pavlovian goes, the reason I took the 8 here, outside of the fact I actually think I might get 6-1 on Easterly. I do think Pavlovian with blinkers tries to press.
Yeah, I do too. And look, I think You think it sets up for the 8. I think it sets up for the 9. Whatever. You could debate either one of them. I'm with you. It's a lukewarm, pick for me as well in the spot. So, but yeah, I do think I think Chip Honcho is 100% going to be in front. I do think he's going to have to run a little bit faster, or at least a little bit more with a horse beside him, whether it be to his inside or outside in this spot. And so that kind of makes me think somebody's going to catch him in the spot. And last time out, look, he just got the dream trip, and he still couldn't win. But there may not be a Paladin in this race. There's probably not a Paladin in this race.
There is not the Derby favorite in this race. I can guarantee that. No. One more horse we should mention. We talked about Bob Baffert. He's shipping to Fair Grounds. Not a common Bob Baffert thing. Showing up here with Blacksmith. This was the favorite in the Los Al Futurity, second choice in the Los Al Futurity, a grade 2 race to Litmus Test. We saw Litmus Test fall last week. However, came back and ran in a maiden special weight, and Robusta won. Cherokee Nation ran second. Since that race, we saw Cherokee Nation absolutely air a field, get 100 buyer. We saw Robusta run second at 70-1 in a major points race. He came back, won his maiden next time out, and now we are here. Any interest in Blacksmith at all? What point do we get? Because we're going to get the price now on these Bafferts. That's the other part of this. We're not playing Bafferts as favorites anymore. Now you're going to get the 6-1 morning line.
Well, call me crazy, but I've got a little interest in him in this race. I think the distance is 1,000,000% what he needs. He's a Liam's Map out of a Curlin mare. Should go a mile and 3/16, right? I mean, that should be good. He ran a lot better last time out than he had been running. So I'll give him that as well. I don't really care about his 2-year-old form so much. The last 2 races of what I really looked at, I don't think he ran well at all. 2 back, honestly. And look, he was 3-5 and got beat. Yeah, Robusta, Cherokee Nation. They've come back to run well since. They didn't run all that well there, though. Blacksmith should have won the race if he would have ran better there for sure. So I do have a little interest in him, and that's kind of not what the theme has been of this Derby Trail, but I just think it's a really good spot for Blacksmith. I do think he's going to sit mid-ish pack. I think he'll make a little run. I'm not going to be shocked if he wins in this spot.
I'm just throwing it out there. He's dangerous. Yeah. If Chip Honcho and Golden Tempo aren't good, this could get wild. This could be a very, very interesting race. I think he's not a horse I would overlook. We'll put it that way. I think Blacksmith is live for this race. We'll see if shipping is a little kinder to Bob Baffert here with this horse. It's not that high level of a prep race in my mind. There's not that much coming out of this race that's a threat in the Kentucky Derby, which means it's, to me, a little bit more wide open. In the Louisiana Derby Fairgrounds, race number 12 on Saturday, Aaron taking Emerging Market 6-1 on the morning line. Good luck getting that price on race day. I will take the number 8, Easterly, 6-1 on the morning line. We will rewind one race to race number 11 on that Fairgrounds card. The Fairgrounds Oaks, a mile and a 16th over the dirt course for 3-year-old fillies trying to get some Kentucky Oaks points on the line. The Rachel Alexandra winner, Bella Ballerina here, 7-5, is going to be your favorite heading into this race. Love Your Neighbor, who ran second there, 7-2, your second choice on the morning line. Aaron Halterman, where are you going on top?
I love Bella Ballerina, so it was a pretty easy decision for me. Number 5, Bella Ballerina on top in the spot. Look, the Rachel Alexandra, it got a little shaky. The horse actually got passed in the stretch and then came back and won and was kind of pulling away towards the end. So I went back and watched it, and I thought, I think this horse is going to get better off that race. So it was the first race off the layoff. Second race, I think will get better for Walsh. B, I think the horse got a little bored. When you look at the first 2 starts, she has a target. She runs down the target. She gets to the wire. This race, she's on the lead in the Rachel Alexandra, and I think she just kind of was looking around, got bored, got past, and thought, oh, there's my target that I got to go get. So I think she moves forward. I think she runs better than she did last time out. I like this horse maybe for the Oaks as well, but we got to see what happens here. But, yeah, give me number 5, Bella Ballerina on top.
I am fascinated to see what type of run we're going to get from Bella Ballerina because I agree with you, but I also think she's the naturally fastest in this field. So the question is, do you let the 7 clear? Because Love and Trust, to me, the other horse that wants to be forward here. Do you let the 7 clear and then try and work out a trip on the 5? Or do you take that lead into the first turn and see what the 7 does? If it's the latter, I think the 5 might be in a little bit of trouble here because you're going to have pace pressure. And I think you have some pretty good horses that are trying to run you down here. Because of that, I am going to try and beat the 5, Bella Ballerina, who I do think is like a legitimate Oaks horse. But I'm going to go to the 6 right to the outside. Life of Joy, 4-1 on the morning line. This is Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt in this spot. Faced Bella Ballerina at the end of the 2-year-old season in the Goldenrod and got a brutal trip in that race. Was 17 lengths back at one point. Ended up missing by just 3 lengths, running 4th in that spot. First off the bench in the Suncoast, I thought was meh. It probably should have been better. But here we are flipping right back. This is where I expect this horse to take a big-time step forward. I like the fact that number from the first race as a 3-year-old was better than any number she ran in her 2-year-old season. To me, that's a sign of a horse that's on the improve, and it wouldn't take that big of a jump for her to be able to improve big time. Now, the concern, Bella Ballerina, also second off the layoff here, also improved any 2-year-old number. She could take a big step forward here as well. I'm just going to take the trip on the 6, which I think is going to be better than the trip on the 5 here, as well as the price. So give me the 6, Life of Joy at 4-1, Aaron.
I thought you were setting it up for maybe taking the 7, Love and Trust, when you were talking about the pace situation. I don't have any problem with you taking the 6, but I do want to talk about the 7, Love and Trust. I do agree with what you're saying. I think the 7 could get the lead and be the one that's tough to pass in this race. Look, the maiden debut going 6 furlongs, got beat by Just Bluffing and Goodall. Those are 2 really good horses. Goodall came back to win a stakes sprinting at Oaklawn last week, and then stretched out last time out to a mile 16th, and improved greatly. I thought looked really, really good. So I kind of think the 7 is really dangerous in this spot, depending on the trip. If she breaks well, gets to the front, like you said, clears the field, then it becomes very interesting. Can she take them all the way? We've seen speed on the big days down at New Orleans, down at Fair Grounds, be very, very good. The weather seems to be very good and very dry, which usually makes for a speed favoring track. So that is possible. Keep that in mind as you're watching races. If it's favoring speed, I do think the 7 is the one that could take it gate to wire if one's going to do it.
Do you think the 1 or the 3 are pace pressures at all? They are inside of those 2 speed horses, but probably not as naturally fast. Like they would have to be asked to go.
I think the 3 should be asked to go. And so I think the 3 is the one that could be. The 1, I just don't feel like the 1 is... Sometimes, you might have a fast horse, but just you look at the class level and it's like, yeah, you might be fast here, in a race at Delta where you're running, but you may not show that when you get up against a higher level. So that's why I worry about with the 1. I do think the 3 could. I do think the 3 could press, coming out of races at Oaklawn Park where she was up close to the lead, if not on the lead, most of the way around there. So the 3 is my worry. If you're betting the 7, the 3 would be my worry. Yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the 1, Miss Meteor, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, named after the owner. No chance if it doesn't go, like 0 chance if it doesn't get the lead. That to me, like, because of the horse, as you said, came out of Delta, lower level stakes races. Now the buyers aren't as high, the times are slower. To me, has to go, has to get the front to have any prayer. May not so you have to ask, and I just don't know if we're going to ask right out of the gate. Maximum offer the 3. We'll see if that horse goes. The one thing I will say, I don't like the 4, Love Your Neighbor. I think that was a situation last time out where that horse got the perfect setup to run second in that race. That would be the horse I'm leaving out of my tries. I agree with you. The 7's interesting. I like the 6. The 5's very good. To me, it's the outside 3. Who are the best horses here in the Fairgrounds Oaks? That's race number 11 from Fairgrounds. The Fairground Oaks Grade 2, number 5. Bella Ballerina for Aaron. Give me the number 6, Life of Joy there in the Fairgrounds Oaks. All right, before we continue on here, make sure you are catching us over on YouTube. That is right. VSiN at the Track has our very own YouTube channel. You can subscribe now on YouTube at VSiN at the Track, youtube.com/@VSiN at the Track. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you help get us out to more people there. Comment below. Let us know who you like in the Fairgrounds Oaks as well as the Fairgrounds Derby, or I'm sorry, as well as Fairgrounds Derby there. So letting us know who you like in both of these races that we have previewed. we're going to go to the Jeff Ruby Stakes now, Grade 3. This is also on Saturday. This time we're going to be running at Turfway Park. Race number 12 on the card, 1.125 miles over this synthetic track. Always one of the more interesting races to try and handicap because we have these turf horses coming over and trying this synthetic track. You've got horses coming out of the Battaglia who you may or may not like. You've got like ship-ins left, right, and center. Horses that probably not Derby competitors, but want to try and get some points as well as run for the money. You took Full Effort, the number 2 horse in the Battaglia, ran second, just missed getting to Great White. Are you going back to the 2-horse Full Effort here, who's 72 on the board, or are you going somewhere else, Aaron?
No, I'm not going to use I'm going to use Full Effort, but I'm not going to have him on top. I don't know. I'm a little sick of him. I mean, I've bet him 2 straight times, and both times you exit the race going, oh, he should have got there, but he didn't, So I do think the extra distance will help. I do think there's pace that'll help, and that's why I'm going to use him, but not put him on top. I really, truly hate that I took the favorite on top here, number 11, Stark Contrast, but I just don't think there's any doubt this is the best horse in the race. Since moving to the turf, this horse has been really good, 3 for 4, and the only loss was a 3/4 length loss to Gustad, who at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, Gustad was, a lock that day, and this horse, Stark Contrast, gave him everything he wanted, right? Came back this year, first out as a 3-year-old. I thought it looked super sharp as well, so look, it's a guess whether this horse is going to take to the synthetic surface, as with a lot of these turf horses coming over. Usually it translates though. So I'm going to go number 11, Stark Contrast on top.
Yeah, I can't. I get it. The horse is the favorite at 5-2 in a race. I think is wide open. It's hard for me to then say the horse first time synthetic shipping in should be the favorite, just not the price. I actually think 5-2 is going to be high. I think this horse is going to go off a lower price than that. You mentioned that race against Gustad, 2 back, was 59-1 in that race. The Eddie Logan was very good, but this is a tough horse for me to take, especially coming out of the 11 post. However, has the tactical ability to sit a pretty good trip here. So I'm not going to knock anyone who takes the 11. For me, the price, just not something that I want to try and chase after here. There's a lot of ways to go in my mind in this race. Like I think that the 2 Full Effort is very interesting. Should be closer to the pace this time, but we'll see what that horse is ending up able to do. I think that the 8 Chaos Agent, a little bit interesting. First time against winners here, but ran really well over the Gulfstream Synthetic last time out. 10-1 on the morning line, so kind of like the price. Argos, a horse that I picked in the Colonel Liam's, which is Barnes, shows up here at 6-1. All that being said, I am going to go to the rail here. I'm going to go with Turf Star, 10-1, 4 Graham Motion. Johnny V picks up the mount here. This is a horse that I liked last year at Keeneland. I thought ran really well in the Bourbon, just missing the final score. Came back and just kind of got a mess of a trip in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. That was a race where Stark Contrast ran second. It was 48-1 that day. Came back in the Kitten's Joy at Gulfstream Park. And if you're going to point to a race and say there was a problem, to me, that's the race where you say, hey, this horse isn't really capable of running at this level. The fact that Motion decides to come here, it tells me that he believes this horse is very much capable to be able to run at this level. And that was just a bad race for Turf Star there. That's the reason we're getting the 10-1 price. We're adding blinkers, which is interesting for Graham Motion. Does not do blinkers all that often. Just 14 times the last 5 years has he added blinkers, 21% with a positive ROI when he does do that. To me, this is just one of those horses where I expect a step forward here. The switch from turf to synth, very good. The fact that you get Johnny V, to me, a big-time positive. And I'm getting a price and a horse that should get a pretty good trip on the rail and has tactical speed. So for all those reasons, in a wide-open race, give me the number 1, Turf Star here at 10-1.
Yeah, don't hate it. Didn't use the horse, but don't hate it. I looked at him for a long time, and I couldn't decide if the owners just want to try to get into the Derby with it being Calumet Farm, or do they really think this horse can compete? I'm not sure on that. I just wish we would have seen a little bit better effort on that last race. That was the thing that's like, I have no problem with the 2-year-old form. Like, finish 6th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, whatever. That's fine. Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, I should say. That's fine. I agree with you. The Bourbon, I thought he ran really well at 12-1 that day. I just, I couldn't get over that last race. Now, I will say that was a very good last race. The second place horse came back to run really well in Tampa Bay Derby. The third place horse came back to win a nice turf race on Tampa Bay Derby card. So it was a good, there were good horses in that race. So that's why, I really wouldn't have a problem with anybody you picked, honestly. And here, though, it's so wide open. So, but I couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, I'm not getting 10-1 if the horse runs better last time, and that to me is the part of the reason why I'm betting the horse. So I kind of needed the bad effort last time out to be able to see if we can do better here. The early was a little forward early, wide. To me, there's a bunch of reasons why that horse can improve, and I think the 1 1/8 actually a good thing as well with Galileo on the bottom. Caravaggio, ironically, the same sire as your pick there, the 11 on the top as well. So we'll see how those two do. I do want to talk about the 4-2 out hero. This is a horse in the Battaglia that was 4.5-1 that I was interested in. I don't believe you like this horse in the Battaglia. It was drawn all the way to the outside, ended up breaking 11 out of 11 that day. Was not as forward as I thought coming from that outside post. Now we're getting a much better price at 8-1 here with the jockey switch. Any interest here in the number 4-2 out hero?
Well, I'm willing to throw out the last race because he didn't get any kind of trip at all. Not even close to the trip he wanted. He stumbled a little bit. Like you said, I thought he'd be on the pace or at least close, and he wasn't. So I'm willing to throw it out. But the problem I have with 2 out hero is the same problem I had the last time. Point to a race where that shows me he can win. Like, I don't see it. The 3 races at Woodbine were okay, but I don't think they're good enough to win this race. So he's not only he will improve, I think, off of the race last time. He's got to improve off of anything he's ever done. And so that's, again, my worry. I wouldn't mind you wheeling back with him, though, because you are getting the price. And I think he may even go up a little bit from that. Where he was 4-1 last time, you may get 8, 10, 12. Who knows how this thing's going to get bet. But again, I just don't. I don't hate him, but I don't have a lot of interest again in this spot.
Yeah, it's hard for me to want to bet him off that last race. I know you talk about Woodbine form, tough to bet horses off Woodbine form alone. Now you have that concern after seeing that last race, and I'm kind of with you there. Where look, to me, the first time after Woodbine is when you bet them because you get the price, and then that price evaporates if they're good. Now you're getting a better price, but it's because the horse was bad. What the heck do we do with Argos? This is a horse I freaking loved last time out in the Colonel Liam. I was in a tournament that day. I bet this horse with quite a bit with both hands, both fists. Ended up running 5th. Never had a chance in that race. Switches barns to the Brad Cox barn, and he immediately jumps up into a graded stakes here. This horse won the summer at Woodbine last year. I thought ran very well last year in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, despite a terrible start. Had a bunch of traffic as well. Came back and was just bad first time off the layoff here. What are you doing with Argos, the 10?
I tossed him. Again, he's another one. Those races at Woodbine were okay. They weren't bad at all. Breeders' Cup, like I said, bad trip. Last time out, does he need a race off the layoff maybe? He just didn't run very well in that race. And I look at him a lot like I look at 2 out hero who traded wins when they were at Woodbine last summer. It's like, okay, you guys aren't bad, but now it's time to go prove it, and yet they haven't done it. And so I tossed him. I don't have a ton of interest in him. Can I make a case for a 12-1 shot, though?
Yeah, go for it.
What about the number 5 Black Hornet? Did you look at this horse at all?
I did. Yeah, I did. Go ahead, make the case.
Well, okay. So randomly, I was at Fair Grounds on February 28th, and I watched Black Hornet run in person, and never in a billion years did I think he would be in a Derby prep that I would talk about on the show after this race. Okay, so he was in the Black Gold Stakes. There was a horse named Touch of Fire in that race who was 2-5, a Brad Cox runner who had a great debut race. Touch of Fire got an absolutely dream trip, setting slow fractions well ahead of everybody else. Well, a length or 2 ahead of everybody else on the front. And I was like, well, this is not going to be much of a race. Black Hornet ran this horse down and did it pretty darn easily. Touch of Fire still ran second in that race and was 2 lengths ahead of the 3rd place horse, which makes me think, yes, Touch of Fire, that's still disappointing, but didn't run like horribly. Beat everybody else by 2. That was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed that day with Black Hornet. I kind of put it in the back of my mind, hey, if this horse shows up in like a grade 2 or grade 3 turf stakes, maybe at Keeneland or somewhere like that, don't forget about him. He shows up here. I don't know how he's going to handle the synthetic. I was pretty impressed with that last race. Does that mean he's going to win the Jeff Ruby Stakes? I never thought that in a million years after the race. But now that he's here and you look at him, at 12-1, I would not forget about Black Hornet.
Yeah, wild that his Tomlinson on the turf is 251, which is awful. But he's 2 for 2.
Yeah, he ran well.
His Tomlinson on the synthetic is 327. One of the lowest in the field. So but it's a lot better than this turf Tomlinson, and he's already clearly buffed that trend. So
yeah.
Why not? And again, like really well-bred horse, essential quality. Just tap it out of a more than ready mare. That's a very well-bred horse. Why not Chaos Agent if you want to price 10-1,
Yep.
number 8 horse. Josie Carroll wins a very impressive race at Gulfstream Park on debut and ships right here, second time out. Obviously, second off the layoff is 3-year-old as well. This was a $10,000 stud fee, sold for $350,000 when the hammer dropped. Any interest in the 8 Chaos Agent?
Big interest, yeah. I'm going to use him as well. I like I said, I've got the favorite on top, but I've got those prices, the 5 and the 8 next. And look, I think very similar to how we talked about emerging market, with having one race and going to Derby Prep. Here's Chaos Agent, one race going to Derby Prep. And just like emerging market, Chaos Agent had a very nice debut effort over a surface that is the same as this one, the synthetic surface. So, I mean, it's Gulfstream and Turfway, but they're the same kind of situations. Look, I think it's a really good spot to come and try this. Again, you have the same issues of one race, and now we're you named it, or you said throw it to the Wolves in that next spot. I think you're throwing them to the Coyotes kind of in these two races, right? They're not exactly Wolves, but it is tougher for sure. I like this horse, and just like emerging market, I like how Chaos Agent won, coming from off the pace, not getting out there and just being the fastest horse and kind of running it into the ground. Came from off of it. Same with Chief Wallaby. Now he's in a different category than these two horses, to be clear. But the thing that was so eye-catching about his debut, he came from out of it. You like that, and I like that for Chaos Agent. So I think he shows up with a big chance. Joel Rosario gets the mount, Mike. I don't know how you feel about that. That could be an issue.
I don't love it, but I do have Chaos Agent in second. I think this horse has a chance to run huge. And again, I'm trying to beat Stark Contrast here, the 11, who's going to be your favorite. So I am willing to take a little bit more of a shot. To me, it's the 1, 2, 8, and 10 that I'm willing to take a chance with. I'll still fire at Argos because I still believe there's a ton of talent in this horse. We'll see if it actually is able to come through. That's the Jeff Ruby Stakes, number 11, Star Contrast for Aaron, number 1, Turf Star for me. All right, before we get to the comments and the best bets, we've got to do our top 10 Derby draft right now. Today, who you got? We got to find a fair way to see who gets to pick first. So I have a dollar bill. The first and last number on this dollar bill are the same. You can either take 5. It's not 5. So you can take under 5 or over 5. Which would you like?
Let's go over 5.
All right.
8.
It's 6. So you get the first pick in the draft. See? I told you it was a fair way to do it.
Wait,
all right.
did that
So
not
your first
say
pick.
8? I thought that
No,
said
it's 6. It's
Where do you see
it's
that?
just
Put
not.
that up
It's
there again. I don't even see.
6. First and last. It's backward though.
Oh, I'm looking at the. Yeah. Okay.
No.
We're looking at.
Okay. All right. You get first pick in the draft. Who you got?
Well, I hate doing it, but
I know you're going to do it.
he
Go
was
ahead.
he was your horse first. I do want to make that clear, but I'm taking Chief Wallaby with the first.
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, that's a clear first pick. If you are a follower of the show, you know that we take Chief Wallaby. All right, now I am a little bit. This hurts. This is tough. All right, Paladin is going to be my second pick.
Okay.
As that is in my mind the clear second pick, and then the third pick is a question here. I'm going to go with Irad. I'm going to go with Renegade. So I will go Paladin and Renegade for me. You get 2 on the return. Who is pick number 4 in this draft?
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't take Renegade. That's who I was hoping would fall. I knew Paladin would not. Give me. Gosh, this is tough. Do I just totally toss Commandment? Is the
The slip, the fall of Commandment is like the most interesting part of this to me right now.
Yeah.
Like, when will one of us pull the trigger here now that we officially have kind of confirmed the distance question?
He needs to be drafted, but is the 4th pick too high? Is what I'm and the 5th pick, is that too high? You know what? Give me Nearly as the 4th pick. I've almost forgotten what he looks like. It feels like it's been so long since we've seen him, but I still think there's upside there with him. Yeah, give me Commandment 5.
I don't know if I would have taken him on the way back. It's going to be interesting because Chief Wallaby, Commandment, Nearly, we're going to see all 3 of them come Florida Derby Day. So that obviously a race that we are all looking forward to. I don't know if I would have taken Commandment. I honestly don't. I mean, clearly now at this point, I'm going to take the Puma. So give me the Puma here. Again, this is it's funny. This is a fun exercise doing drafts because you start to get to a point where what horses can't win, right? Like, are we at the point where you wouldn't bet a horse to win? And honestly, after those top 5, I am pretty hard pressed to say I really want, I like any specific horse. And so then to me, it's like I'm taking upside horses, right? It's horses that I think can improve quite a bit. Man, so I have 4 horses on this list. I'm going to go with Incredibolt to that point. Out of California, a horse that had a bunch of buzz around the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, did not run to that buzz, came back, ran second last time out. I think is going to win the Santa Anita Derby, and I think is going to end up in the gate. So I'm going to go out to California, and I'm going to use Incredibolt, who I think has a bunch of upside compared to some that are left on the list.
Ooh, big sigh of relief for me. I was really worried you were going to take Class President, who's I'm going to take next.
Not on my list.
Well, here's the deal. I definitely love this horse because, I picked him in the Rebel, but I am just very curious to see if there's more second out going long. I don't know where he's going to run, and that has me worried. Will he go to the Bluegrass? Will he go to the Wood? Will he be the train up to the racehorse, which I don't want him if that's the case, but I don't know. But anyway, I'm taking Class President. When I've got one more, don't I? Oh, gosh.
You do.
This is where it gets tough, and okay. I'm going to do Cherokee Nation as my last one. Well, no, here's why. I don't love anybody really.
Yeah.
But Cherokee Nation ran 100 buyer last time out. Do I think he's going to do that again? No, I don't. If he does, he's one of the top 3 choices in the race. So give me Cherokee Nation as I'm taking a flyer, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. All right. So that 3, 4, 5. Your team is rounded out.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. So now I have 3 horses on my list. I've got Incredibolt, Golden Tempo, and Emerging Market.
Okay.
And it's the question of the upside of Emerging Market. Golden Tempo is not, like, it's Incredibolt or Emerging Market for me is the last pick here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Incredibolt. I'm going to take the horse that is already in the Derby, that is the proven horse of the 2. And look, if you just draw a straight line through that effort at Gulfstream Park, this horse is on track for being able to improve up to the point where you can run into the money in the Kentucky Derby. And like Emerging Market, I don't believe. I just don't. I know you do. I like, after seeing what we saw at Tampa last week, it's hard for me to really jump onto that Emerging Market train. Anyone you're surprised that didn't get drafted?
Not really. I kind of think that's a Silent Tactic. Maybe that was a horse actually that I think about it. Maybe he could have got drafted. Further Ado, maybe you project improvement second out for him of the 3-year-old season. Yeah, those would be the 2.
Yeah, Further Ado I had on the list, but I'm lower on Further Ado than you are. So that one for me not nearly as big of a one. All right, so Aaron selects Chief Wallaby 1. Rounds out his team with Nearly, Commandment, Class President, and Cherokee Nation. I took Paladin and Renegade at 2 and 3. Rounded out my team with the Puma, Incredibolt, and Incredibolt. Realistically, and I brought this up because now I'm actually starting in my head to make my trifecta, my superfecta, who I want to win. I don't think I'm going to be more than 2 or 3 deep on top in this Kentucky Derby.
I think I might be one on top in this Kentucky Derby, to be completely honest. I think the Florida Derby, with the talent that it has the chance. If somebody stands out in that race, and say it's not a close finish, and you go, wow, I think that could just be a lock almost for me, right? I'm not saying it's a lock. There's never a lock in the Derby. For me, it's going to feel like that. Then if that doesn't happen and I'm not overly impressed or whatever, then I think the Arkansas Derby and the Bluegrass come into play. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, this is like the Florida Derby is going to be the best prep that we're going to see. And so, like, if Chief Wallaby runs and hides, it's going to be hard not to have him on top, right? Paladin is going to be interesting because we're probably never going to see Paladin against any of the really good horses, like until the Kentucky Derby, which makes it very hard to figure out what you actually feel about Paladin. Oh, by the way, if you're playing like supers or trifectas or exactas, you probably don't want to have the first two favorites in the Kentucky Derby in your 1-2 spots, and the winner of the Florida Derby and Paladin will most likely be your favorite and your second choice come Kentucky Derby time. So that kind of throws a wrench in there. What I'm realizing here, and this is kind of like a bummer for me as someone who loves to bet the Kentucky Derby, probably not going to have a horse at 10-1, 12-1, 15-1 that I like on top. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here as we get closer, because I mean, I've made literally living off of betting horses in the Kentucky Derby anywhere from 7-1 to 15-1. I don't see that horse based on what we just did here in this draft.
Well, the good news is we have 3 major weekends that could flip a lot of stuff for you. So that is the good news. You know, these 3 weekends coming up, we could wipe the slate clean if some of these horses don't come back how we think. So that's the good news. But when Ted Nafi got hurt, and by the way, I think Ted Nafi would have lost based on everything else that we've seen from who he was beating as a 2-year-old. But anyway, when Ted Nafi got hurt, I thought we were going to go into a Derby where we were going to like a lot of prices. But other horses have really emerged that I didn't think would happen. So, but again, that's what makes these next 3 weeks so fun. Yeah, we can sit here and say this now. And hey, for our betting in the next 3 weeks, hopefully we're right. But if we're wrong, that's great, because we are scouting week after week leading up to this thing now.
I love how you just slipped in the knock on Ted Nafi there, right? Like he would be blown out in the Derby if he was still healthy.
Dude, I don't think he would even be a factor. Do you?
I was never a Ted Nafi guy, so
yeah,
that kind of tells you how I feel about that. Like, right. I was just never a Ted Nafi guy. I never was that impressed by the horse, so. Obviously would have had the opportunity to run here. So I guess what I'm rooting for is Chief Wallaby to lose the Florida Derby in a pathetic manner so I can get a price on him in the Kentucky Derby. I think that might be.
Hello, sovereignty.
Yeah, right. That might be what I need to, but he wasn't pathetic. No. That might be what we need to be able to get a price on the horse that I want moving forward here. All right. YouTube comments here. First off, comment from Heinz Buck Sand Castle. Interesting. Puma is this year's Sandman. Not going to do anything in May. 100% possible. Like, I will say this. Sandman's win in the prep was completely because that thing fell apart. Puma won his race. Sandman picked up a collapse race. That is the one difference to me.
I don't know if I want to call him Sandman. I don't want to go that far.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
That's harsh. That's bad.
Like, you both like? No, I'm not even gonna say that. Nope, not even gonna say that one. So yeah, I think Puma's better than Sandman, but hey, it is what it is. Couple comments around new bets because hey, we talked about the Octafecta last time. New product 8107, who I bet created this YouTube account just to say this. Said I love the new bet from Turfway Park. Big payouts is what we want. I agree. I do want big payouts. I just don't want them in jackpot form. Yeah. Okay, if you made this a non-jackpot wager and just carried it over, you'd get huge payouts, and everybody would have a fair shake at it versus it really favoring CAWs out there. Rick Cook, E6W. I don't know. Have you ever seen those videos? Have you ever seen those videos on Peloton where people put in names that are inappropriate and then the Peloton instructor just reads them out? I am terrified that is going to happen in these comments now. I'm like double checking every one of these names before I read them. And Rick Cook, I was like, wait a second. Are we okay? Yep, we're okay. Rick Cook says, I think we should have a place or pick all for the 2 Breeders' Cup days. Del Mar has the daily place pick all. I think that would be a popular bet in a lottery type of payout. I love place alls. I think they're fun. I think we should have a show all. Like, have a show parlay pool where you're not paying 15% every single race and takeout. Like, give me the opportunity to just say, hey, I have one horse to show in every single race. If you get them all right, you get a decent payout. I think those are fun. I think we should have more bets like that and less bets like a jackpot octafecta. What do you say, Aaron?
Love the idea of that from Rick Cook, who is an appropriate name. So you survived this week, Somich. Yeah, no, I love that. No, that is great. I love that idea. New product 8107. Thank you, whether you be a Twin Spires or a CDI employee. We appreciate you listening to the show and creating an account to try to support your stupid decision. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening, though. Please stay tuned as we lead up towards the Run for the Roses at your racetrack.
No one has scooped that bet yet, and I believe the superfecta has paid more than the 4 that you've had to have in every single instance so far. Just throwing it out there. All right, best bets. Got to get to it here. We'll start out with my first best bet, Fairground race number 8. This is the Costa Rising Stakes, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Give me the number 1, 9-part here, 3-1 on the morning line. Jose Ortiz rides for Joseph Felks. If you're asking the question, who is Joseph Felks? That's not a bad question to ask because he had just 30 horses that he trained in 2025, just 11 so far this year. But he is clicking off at 73%. That's pretty good. That is pretty good, Aaron. This horse was awesome on dirt at Fairgrounds and State Bred races, then decided to try turf, and guess what? Got even better. Jose Ortiz has ridden this horse a bunch of times. That generally is going to tell you a horse is pretty good for a trainer that's this under the radar. The 2 of them have teamed up 7 times. 4 of those 7 have been on this horse. All 4 of those are winners with a positive ROI. I think it's a beautiful trip here. As you've got speed once again signed on for 9-part to be able to be rolling late. I think this horse, second off a layoff, is going to get a great trip and is going to enjoy that lawn as much as last time. So give me the number 1, 9-part, 3-1 on the morning line in race number 8 from Fairgrounds on Saturday is my first best bet.
I have no problem with your pick, but what a race again. So you do this all the time. What a race to take a best bet from. 12 Louisiana bred sprinting on the turf. It seems like a very, very wide open race to me. But look, I think 9-part certainly showed last time out. Very nice effort in that race.
Look, I don't want to take a 6-5, right? That is a big part of me for best bets. We have different opinions on how to attack this, and like I'm generally looking for prices, and like I don't think this horse should be 3-1. I think this horse should be more like 6-5, and to me that creates quite a bit of value there. All right, first best bet for you, Mr. Halterman. Let's head to Turfway Park, race number 7 on Saturday's card.
Yeah, and I know what you're doing there. I just like to give you.
Some races I pick are interesting. You're not wrong.
Okay. All right, let's go to Turfway Park, race 7. I'm going to go number 1, Literate on top here. Brad Cox horse, who just runs so well here at Turfway Park. 2 races back, stakes victory going 1 mile. Last time out, won by 10 3/4. Another stakes victory going 1 mile. Stretch out to mile 16th today. I don't think that'll be a problem, though. Just a really, really solid Turfway Park runner. So give me the number 1, Literate in the 7th.
Yeah, that is a very likely winner. Very likely winner there. And Turfway race number 7 is Literate. Should have a very similar trip. C2 Racing, shout out to those guys. Owner of Vita Barrio. They've done interviews for us before. Wonderful dudes. Always like to root for them. Second best bet for me, race number 9 at Fairgrounds, the New Orleans Classic. 1 1/8 over the turf course. I'm excited to bring this one up because I want your opinion on this. I'm going to go to one of the longest shots on the board. Give me the number 6. Corporate Power here, 8-1 on the morning line. Steve Asmussen trains. Luis Saez will ride. Yes, this is the Corporate Power that you remember from 2024, who ran second in the Curlin and then tried the Travers and lost to Fierceness, Torpedo Anna, Sierra Leone, all those horses. Never really had a shot in that race. Came back after a 2-year hiatus in February and ran very well over this Fairgrounds turf course. Ended up getting a 94 buyer and winning. Now we are second off the layoff in a race that is chock full of speed, Aaron. I think the 6 just sits a beautiful trip here. I think Corporate Power sits behind the speed of Not This Boy, of Life and Times, of Accelerize, of Touch Upon a Star, of Westwood, who, by the way, are the other 5 horses in this race, and passes all of them coming down the lane. So give me the number 6, Corporate Power here.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm not going to lie, but
this is the horse you would never pick. I know it.
Because he's not any good, so I usually don't pick horses that aren't very good. Here, okay, here's what I'll say about him, to be serious. I was at that Travers. I can't tell you how many people told me Corporate Power was going to win that day at the track. And I was just like, guys, like Fierceness or Pino Ana, I mean, Sierra Leone, no, he's not going to win. But I didn't think he was a bad horse. I just didn't think that was the race for him. I do think he's got a chance to live up to that hype, though, with Asmussen. Obviously, he got injured and something happened. This is kind of Asmussen's wheelhouse. He's pretty good with older male horses and getting the most out of them. I do think he ran really well last time out. I don't know that he can win in this spot. That's where it is for me. But look, I do think at 8-1, I wouldn't talk you off of him. I don't think he should be 8-1 because I do think he's better than Not This Boy. I'm not fully sold on the Pletchers, so I think he's got a shot, no doubt about it.
They are going to have a New Orleans style cookout there on the early pace, and everyone's going to go way too fast. And Corporate Power, who will get his graded stakes victory here, is going to come from off the pace. Love the 8-1 price. Hope I get 8-1. We'll see if I actually do. We'll see if we see all 5 of those speed horses end up going postward. But second best bet for me, race number 9 at Fairgrounds, number 6, Corporate Power at 8-1. Aaron Halterman, your final best bet coming from race number 14.
Yeah, we love these Louisiana bred races. You had one earlier. I'm going to go race 14, a maiden special weight for Louisiana breds. Give me the number 1, Dirty Straight Up. This field is not good, Mike. It is not good whatsoever. Dirty Straight Up, he's okay. Last time out, he almost went gate to where he lost by a head. 2 races back, also a pretty good effort to finish 3rd. The big difference here for me in this spot, draws the rail. I think that's good for a speed horse. Obviously, shortest way around there. He should get the lead. And I mean, should be kind of by himself. I think he takes it home if that's the case. So give me the number 1, Dirty Straight Up in the 14th, if you're still awake, in the 14th at Fairgrounds on Saturday.
I was between the 1 and the 11 in this race, both coming out of the same race. The 11 had a boatload of trouble, was the favorite, and ended up running 4th behind Dirty Straight Up, who ran 2nd in that spot. 11's 8-1, the 1's 9-5. To me, those are the 2 horses, and I'll take the bigger price. But I do think the 1 has a big shot because clearly the fastest horse early. So the 11 needs to improve and needs to be a little closer to have a chance to be able to run down that 1 there in the 14th at Fairgrounds. Aaron's second best bet. All right, that's going to do it for us here, VSiN at the Track. Thank you very much, everybody who listened along over on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, like, and rate and review there so that we can get out to more eardrums if you're watching us over at VSiN at the Track on YouTube. We appreciate it. Drop a comment below. Who do you like in the Louisiana Derby? I know I'm going to get some crap because I said Fairgrounds Derby earlier, but it's the Fairgrounds Oaks. So whoever you like in the Louisiana Derby, the Fairgrounds Oaks, let us know if you like who you like at Turfway. Who should we draft it? Who do we leave off? We'd love to hear from you. Comment below on the video here on YouTube. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Aaron Halterman, for Matt Deutsch, super producer in the background, I am Mike Somich. Good luck this weekend at the track.